Hello and welcome to the Rapid City Legal and Finance Committee meeting for July 29th. I'd like to begin the meeting with the roll call and determination of quorum, please. Thank you. Now's the time to adopt the agenda. The chair would like to recognize Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One item is to add to the agenda is item number 13, and it has to do with the fire department. It's a declaration of emergency and authorization for contracted repairs for HVAC system fire station number 1.
All right, I have an addition of item number 13. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda inclusive of item number 13 added to the agenda? Second. I've got a motion by Alderman Laurenti to adopt the agenda with the addition of item number 13, second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda has been adopted with one addition. Now's the time for general public comment. This is a time for any members of the audience to address the seated committee members on any issue that is currently not an item on the agenda for today. I currently have no speaker request forms for general public comment. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment on consent items 1 through 6. Today's calendar has consent items 1 through 6. I currently have no speaker request forms on any consent items from the audience. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, public comment is now closed on consent items 1 through 6. Committee members will consider items 1 through 6 or make a motion to address the consent items. Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Item 4, please. We're asking to have them pulled, am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Item number 3, please.
Okay, so far I have items number 3 and number 4 pulled. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar 1 through 6, except items number 3 and number 4.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Laurenti to approve consent items 1 through 6, except items number 3 and number 4, second by Alderman Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent items 1 through 6, except items 3 and 4, have been approved. Item number 3. Item number 3 is to authorize 3 staff members to fly in private airplane to attend the Image Trend Connect conference in St. Paul, Minnesota. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I see the fire department wants to be in the queue. What I'd like to do is table this item number 3.
There is no discussion on a tabling item. Do I have a second to table item number 3? It is no longer needed. The request came from the fire department to table this item because it is no longer needed. I've got a motion by Nordstrom to table, second by Laurenti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 3 has been tabled. Item number 4 is to approve the loan agreement promissory note with Pioneer Bank and Trust for a new golf course equipment that was approved a couple months back. Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair, and I was hoping somebody would be here that could answer a few questions on this particular item, but it doesn't appear that there is. I would like to, well, I imagine at the next council meeting I'm going to have an opportunity to ask those questions. It's a large expenditure. We already have, there are some council members that have some concerns about the costs that the golf course is incurring while maintaining the same cost structures at the golf course to use it, and the taxpayers are subsidizing it because of that. So this only adds to that particular concern. I think we're looking at a $255,000 expenditure. So this is not a small expenditure, and a lot of questions need to be asked, and I'll be sure to do it if not other council people as well. So that's all I have to say at this point without anybody to question.
Thank you. The chair would like to direct a question to the finance director. Pauline, this is under the finance department. Is there any reason that this could not be continued to the next Legal and Finance Committee meeting, since there's no one here to address it? Is there something that's driving it at this time?
The council already approved the purchase of the equipment, and so this is just the financing of that equipment. That part was not part of the process back in April when the purchase was approved. I guess your question, I'm not sure how to, I don't know if there's a big hurry other than we probably are getting the equipment and we need to be able to pay for it somehow, and be nicer to be able to use the loan to pay for it versus going in the hole in the golf course fund and then reimbursing ourselves.
Thank you. And the chair would like to recognize Alderwoman Drew.
I'd like to make a motion that this proceeds to council without recommendation.
Second.
I've got a motion by Drew to send item number 4 to council without recommendation, second by Laurenti. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now's the time to listen to public comment on non-consent items. Non-consent items are items number 7 through 13. There was an additional item added at the end of today's agenda. I do have 2 public speaker request forms. The first public speaker request form from item number 8, non-consent, is Lorraine Windenberg. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Lorraine, if you could approach the podium speaker over there. If you'll state your name and your affiliation to the city, you have 3 minutes to address the seated committee members, and if you're available to stay for the consideration of your item, if there's any further questions after your 3 minutes, the committee members may call you back up to readdress any questions.
Okay.
At this time, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay. I trust that everyone has read the letters. This is the first time for a process for me with all the attachments and things. Mine is an abatement for property taxes, and I'm sure I'm not the first person that's ever done this or approached it, but I feel my letter qualified and verified most of the items in question. My address would be, I guess, to refute some of the things that were submitted by the Director of Equalization. He stated that I refused an offer to correct the appeal. We were selling our house in April. He said I refused the offer to appeal. Well, the appeals are done in March, so that wasn't an option. When I had spoken with them, when we had a controversy with the square footage of our home, and the gentleman in the equalization office said that I should file for an abatement. Hence, that's why I'm here. So they also stated in that letter from the equalization office that they had since looked at the property. Well, that's part all of it, that they've looked at it. One of the appraisers in that office, which I stated in my letter, had said, we haven't been out to that house in years. So I said I had not received any notices on my door. You know, again, is this my responsibility? Probably so, to verify square footage, but who does that? Will you trust the realtors to do this and get the information from the equalization office, and hence it had cost us the sale of a home first time around. And I'm not blaming that on anyone, again, but I trust that the realtors had gotten the proper information from that office. It also states in there that the assessed value, or that the errors in data are not errors in assessed value or a tax. I would refute that, because the error in square footage does affect your tax assessment and the value of home and the median ratio of how the values of the home are presented. I mean, it obviously would have reduced the price of our home, hence reducing the property tax. I think that's all I have at the moment.
Thank you. The other public speaker request form I have is for item number 10, Jean Kesslaw. Jean, if you could approach the podium, state your name and your affiliation to the city, and you have 3 minutes to address the seated committee members on item number 10. And then if you could stick by, if there's any questions when the committee actually discusses item number 10, you may be called back up to readdress any answers that the committee members have. So 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jean Olson-Kesloff. I am here as a homeowner in the Historic District. And I wanted to show you an example of the importance of the 11-1 preservation reviews being performed by a commission that is qualified in such areas as architecture. Looking on the screen, you'll see the back of a house. Actually, this is my house, my first experience with historic preservation. We wanted to build a garage. This is a garage that we wanted to build, which we built. This is a process of the garage in behind the house. And the garage would have been just fine. It would not have been an adverse effect. It would have just been fine. But this is what we got by having an architect on the commission that took our ideas and our plans just a little bit further. And what we got was more than just a garage behind a house, a little bit more customer service, helping us design something that fit within the historic district, but also enabled us to put, extend our bathroom upstairs. So that's the importance of having a commission with members that are qualified and professionals to help applicants with their projects that they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. I currently have no further speaker request forms. Am I missing anyone from the audience? On non-consent items 7 through 13, we did add another item to today's agenda. Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Item number 7 is a Humane Society, the Black Hills update. Thank you for coming before Legal and Finance today, and we look forward to hearing your update.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. This is going to be an overview of our budget proposal for 2016.
If you could please introduce yourselves
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
then go ahead and start.
I'm Jackie Harvey, the Executive Director of the Humane Society of the Black Hills. Amanda Jackson.
And Ron Sasso, board member.
With the new board and a new organizational direction since 2013, we have made significant
Jackie,
progress.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna back you. Thank you. Yes, we're having a little trouble hearing you. So
Okay.
if I'm gonna back you up one more time, please start from the beginning.
Okay. With the new board and new organizational direction since 2013, HSBH has made significant progress in fundraising as well as increasing our adoption numbers. But it's still not enough funding to cover the increasing costs of operations and building maintenance. A review of our financials for extraneous expenses reveals no significant cost categories that we can eliminate. Our organization has worked very hard to provide improved service while covering increased numbers, and yet despite careful management and improved procedures, we are experiencing a budget shortfall. As you can see from the graph, in 2012, we were cut 30% down for the 2013 year, and it continues through 2015. Go ahead. As our animal services and enforcement duties and situations, some of our officers encounter enforcing the Rapid City ordinances is very important to us. We obtain warrants for animal seizures. We investigate animal cruelty. We also assist the police department in any way we can. We investigate bites, and we seize those animals for quarantine when need be. We pick up strays, we work with aggressive animals, and we perform potentially dangerous and dangerous animal investigations. We strive to educate the public on responsible pet care. We enforce rabies vaccinations and pet licensing. We also respond to wildlife calls. HSBH has made tremendous efforts to progress our animal control services, from basic functions to fully responsible officers serving as an extension of the Rapid City Police Department. In 2014, we implemented a plan to better address past and current animal control issues. This has resulted in managing an increased number of animal control calls and activities with a high level of professionalism and accuracy. We hired a full-time Animal Services and Enforcement Officer in March 2014. Our lead officer has sufficient experience and education to be able to write warrants. Our officers now receive advanced training and certification from the National Animal Control and Humane Officer Academy. During the current season, our on-call officer has to have another officer serve as backup because the increase in dog bites and aggressive calls, and we don't want the public to have to wait for our assistance in these situations. Due to the increase in our ASE services and the busy season, we have found a significant need for a part-time officer, and we have hired one to increase assistance and decrease officer overtime within the last month. Our potentially dangerous dog investigations and dog seizures have increased dramatically to create a safer community. Of course, first we work with the public through education so that they will comply. If they don't, we do seize the animals. We're also stressing the importance of the current rabies vaccinations and licensing to promote community safety. According to the Rapid City Police Department reports, HSBH has increased the calls it takes and response to calls by 34.27%. You can also see a lot of the other calls that we deal with have also increased dramatically.
And this is, I think this is probably one of the most important slides to focus on, that the animal services and enforcement officers are taking calls that typically, if we were not there, those would be the police department handling those. And so we've had a dramatic increase in calls.
An officer can find themselves in several different situations. Hopefully, the animals are safe and healthy, but often we run into situations where animals are in bad health and they've been subject to cruelty and mistreatment. Above all, we're here to keep the public safe and the animals safe while enforcing laws, ordinances, and promoting public safety. An overview of our warrant seizures. During May of 2015, we seized 2 Great Danes, 21 lambs, and 20 rabbits. Go ahead. The lambs were living inside the home, eating isolation, and actually they were housed in a small bathroom. The house was full of hay, trash, also had breeding rabbits, and of course the Great Danes. We did remove several deceased animals at this home as well, and we impounded all of the animals. In June 2014, we seized 8 dogs living in deplorable conditions. All of the dogs that we did see had bacterial skin infections. They were filthy with feces and urine. Their paws were severely infected and swollen. They did receive veterinary care once we got them at the Humane Society. December of 2014, we seized 9 dogs. These were living in a home. There was no people living there, just the animals. The food they got was thrown in the middle of the floor. All of these dogs were emaciated, dehydrated. They had mites, fleas, and lice. They were starving. They were in terrible condition. Once we got them to the Humane Society, we had 2 mama dogs deliver puppies. Unfortunately, 2 of the puppies eventually died because the mamas just were not able to care for them. They were in such bad health. In February 2015, we seized 1 dog for abandonment. It wasn't quite as bad as the others that we've seen. Nevertheless, it got the care it needed once it got to the Humane Society. In February 2015, this was the 2nd seizure we did at this address. This dog had a previous bite history. It escaped and again bit a neighbor. The owner would not comply with us, so we could quarantine the dog, so we obtained a warrant and seized the dog. In 2014, July, we got a call about a raccoon being housed in a home in Rapid City. So she wouldn't allow us in her home, so we obtained a warrant so that we could inspect the home. The raccoon was moved out of the city limits, but we were also able to find other violations, such as she had several dogs and cats that were not current on rabies, and none of them had their pet license. She has since complied. In April 2014, we had a call about a house that had many feral cats running inside and out of the home. We did obtain a warrant to go into the home and get the cats, but the home was in such bad shape we weren't allowed in there, so we had to obtain an order to trap the cats. At that time, we did trap 22 cats from this address. In 2014 June, we seized 2 dogs and 2 puppies. What happened was the owner was arrested and the animals were left in the home. We were not notified for a full week before we were able to obtain a warrant and get the animals. They were fine, a little bit hungry, but they had access to water, and they were placed with a family member. An overview, our potentially dangerous investigations, December 2014. This dog had 2 bites to humans, 1 animal-on-animal attack, and it was subsequently deemed potentially dangerous. In 2014 June, this dog had 2 human bites, multiple at-large complaints, and then complaints on when it was at large, it was very aggressive. We did deem the dog potentially dangerous with full stipulations, and when I say full stipulations, they have to have a kennel, collar, microchip, a muzzle when they're outside and beyond leash. The family admitted afterwards of many sustained bites from the dog that were not reported to us. In 2014 September, this dog, 2 human bites. 1 bite was at a child that was bitten in the face. There was an extreme amount of complaints regarding this dog charging, chasing neighbors. She was deemed potentially dangerous. At a later date, the owner failed to comply with the stipulations. The dog was again caught running at large, so we obtained a warrant and seized her for failure to comply. This dog, potentially dangerous, 2014, he charged police officers multiple times. Very fearful dog. Nobody could catch him when he was running loose, so there were 2 times we had to trap him. He was deemed potentially dangerous, seized for being at large again. The owner didn't comply, so we had to seize him. He was eventually euthanized. 2015, this dog, multiple bites. Dog-on-dog attacks, several of them, at large all the time. Dog was deemed potentially dangerous and euthanized. 2 dog-on-dog attacks with this dog. He was seized and placed under investigation, and we eventually deemed it potentially dangerous with stipulations. This was an interesting case. This was a Belgian Malinois. The owner had trained the dog as a protection dog. It attacked a walker 3 different times in one incident. The dog was seized and placed under investigation. It was deemed potentially dangerous with full stipulations, plus a year mandatory training. The interesting thing with this dog was the owner trained it as a protection dog, but he had neglected to train it to be able to call the dog off. So hence was the year mandatory training. June 2014, this dog had multiple bites. The last bite was to a child's pelvic region. This dog was always at large, was deemed potentially dangerous, and of course, unfortunately for the breed of a pit bull, it was a pit bull. We had problems. UPS refused to drop the mail there, but the dog was deemed and contained. An overview of our activities in 1 year. We've had 134 bites from January to May. We've had 12 search warrants just until June. There's been several after that. We had 34 potentially dangerous dog investigations, and we have written 43 citations which require court appearance, 183 written warnings which have been written, and our animal services and enforcement officers handle wildlife calls within the city that include skunks, rattlesnakes, raccoons. Our animal officers are also licensed, and myself, with the state game fish and parks for wildlife rehabilitation, so we are better able to handle and assist with wildlife issues.
And that's something that just in the past was an issue, and I know that was an area that was addressed by the Humane Society, because previously there were issues with having the police department handle a lot of wildlife calls and dealing with skunks, and really not wanting to have a skunk in a police car is pretty understandable. So.
Yeah. Our Animal Services and Enforcement Improvement Plan has been implemented. We heard you when you said we weren't performing up to standard. And we listened, and we increased our services, both in volume and quality. Our improved services have resulted in additional staff members. We've upgraded our community engagement. We have hardship holds for people who are in transitions. Maybe they've lost their home. Maybe they're have a divorce and they can't hang on to their animals for a few weeks. We do that free of charge for as long as a month. In fact, we now have 2 little goat residents that you might be familiar with. We have a food bank for people who can't feed their animals. Our idea is to keep animals in the home if we can. We have education events at schools, in clubs, to where we can educate the public on responsible pet care. We offer assistance to the area Indian reservations. We take dogs from them when they need to find homes for them. And with the steady increase to the Rapid City area population, there's always an increase along with that in the animal population. Our minimum wage increase to $8.50 affected us too. Some of the fundraising efforts that we've begun, you can see pictures here. Our Facebook following is grown exponentially. We have about 8,000 followers now. We're trying to get away from the dog pound image. We're a guaranteed adoption shelter. That means 100% of our adoptable animals eventually find homes. This year we're putting on Wolfstock. It's going to be our signature event for fundraising. It'll be at Memorial Park on September 12th, and it's going to be a day celebrating all things canine and feline. We hope you all will attend. Our animal intake averages about 5,000 animals a year. The cost per animal per day is about $13. And if you stop to thinking about it, what would these animals do without our organization? It's for this reason that we request that our budget for the fiscal year 2016 be restored to its previous highest contract amount of approximately $278,000 per year. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
I do have a couple questions for you guys. What is your termination time on animals, dogs in particular?
You know, we don't put a time limit on it. As long as they remained behaviorally sound, they can stay at the Humane Society. I can tell you the average length of stay for a dog is 8 days. Average length of stay for a cat, 17. And I mean adopted, not euthanized.
Okay. And do you work with any fostering agencies?
We do. We have a foster. We have a roughly, right now, we have probably 70 animals in foster. So we do private people.
Okay.
Oh, I should say, we do work with rescue groups as well.
Okay, good. And I see you do have some fundraising activities here, and you have very compelling stories, obviously. You know, I see all the commercials for the national campaigns. Mm-hmm. Do you guys get any money from that?
No. No, we don't get any money from the national organizations. What they do is they fund themselves.
Right.
I have to say, though, the Humane Society of the United States has, the area state director has given us a grant for $5,000. So it is possible to get some money, not a lot, though.
I would really heavily suggest that you go ahead and make your own commercials and try and raise your own money, because a lot of people don't know, and there's a lot of people, their hearts are open to these animals, but they don't know they're not helping locally.
And I think that's a possibility because media has been very kind to us, and we have over 6 spots for Pet of the Week, so it's growing.
Do you have any donate buttons on your Facebook or website?
We do.
How's that working for you?
It works pretty good. Not as well as we would like, but we're
I
growing.
think, yeah, if you put that together with a marketing campaign of something that's branded as local, I think
Yes.
you'd really see a lot of people that really want to help. And just one last thing. I probably should talk to you about this in person, but I'm going to just say it right here. I was in Minneapolis last week, and one of the hugest events they had in a local theater was cat videos. So you might think about pet video fundraising event. I don't think it'd be too hard to do. And seriously, the place they rented had 2,000 seats. They sold it out. I don't think that would happen in Rapid City, but you have access to all these wonderful cat and dog videos online, so why not share the love and make a little bit of money? So that's my suggestion to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will second what Alderwoman Doyle is doing and suggesting for you. I really respect her opinions on marketing, and I really appreciate her efforts in guerrilla marketing as well. So if you have any resources at all, pay attention to what she's saying.
I will.
If I may, is that you folks gave me an annual report. Have you distributed something like that to the rest of the council yet? I thought there was some good information in there.
I believe it went to everyone, yes.
You got it to every council member?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I think that for me, that's a good start to help you get back on track. I'm not ready to go for the full amount just yet. I'm willing to listen to what the mayor is suggesting in our budget, and then also the current police department, what they're suggesting and recommendations. At this point, that's where I'm at, is to allow that conversation to take place. Any comments or suggestions on that?
I think we have to make some comments on that, just because we wouldn't be here talking about this. I mean, right off the bat, one of the things to point out is that we've had an increase in calls of almost 35%. And to say, okay, well, here we've had an increase in calls, and at the same time, we heard the concerns going back a few years. We made changes, significant, very significant changes, and we are doing lots of fundraising. And it's hard. It's hard to generate enough revenue when competing with a national organization that really does not provide funding for us. So these are some of the challenges that we have, and to really say, okay, no, we just have to keep on keeping on, when right now financially it's a struggle, and there's no two ways around it that we are struggling to continue with those services. And I think what we may need to do is, if we cannot get back to where we were funding-wise in 2013, we may have to look at reducing the services that we're providing, which I think would hurt the community, would hurt animals as well. And when you have the possibility of a loose dog potentially biting a child, as has happened, that's not a good place to be. That's not keeping the community safe, and that's one of the tenets that I think, as the council, is very, very important. And I know Chief Jagaris, when we met, one of the things he indicated is that that the police department cannot do what we do as far as animal services and enforcement as cheaply. They can't.
Thank you, Ron. And I think, for me, one of the major advocates that will be on your side will be the voice that I hear from the police department and the current mayor to see what he's making for suggestions, because they're much more directly involved with what you're doing. But again, I thank you for the annual report. It was very good. It was a good start as far as producing an annual report, and I encourage you to keep it up. And again, I'm just waiting for the current chief and the mayor to make additional recommendations.
And Richie, if I might, I know you were in that, that meeting where we discussed the services and the contract, and I think you were in agreement and understanding that as well, that with what we were looking for and what our needs were. So, and I know right now that's what's come forward is different than what we originally requested, and that's a concern. It's something that we want to work together and make sure that everybody is happy.
Thank you, Ron.
So,
and just remember that the current mayor has said to us on numerous occasions that 90% of this budget that we're working off right now is from the previous mayor's budgets. But again, I'd still like to have the current mayor give me an update on what his thoughts are for
I
this particular
I understand. I think we all understand. So, and as mentioned, a lot of the changes and improvements that happened were based on discussions with Mayor Allender when he was police chief.
Thank
so
you.
Those are some of these things. These changes are a direct result of those discussions from years ago.
Thank you, Ron.
So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
For item number 7 today, we'll be looking for an acknowledgement of this discussion. Any budgetary items to be discussed for the 2016 budget will go before the budget hearings, and I believe the next one is tentatively scheduled for August 11th. So I would encourage you to contact your city council members to make sure if you want that item discussed openly in the budget hearing for 2016, we can consider that. So just want you to aware, unless you have any other further request at this point, we're just looking for an acknowledgement of this update. The chair would like to recognize Alderman Laurenti.
And I'll make that motion to acknowledge and maintain the floor if I can, please, Chair.
Got a motion by Laurenti to acknowledge the Humane Society of the Black Hills update, second by Nordstrom. Alderman Laurenti, you still have the floor.
Thank you. As the liaison for the Humane Society, I just wanted to start from where I voted to make the decrease a couple of years ago in their budget, and I was one of the ones that supported that because of some of the issues that they had. So when I was named the liaison for the Humane Society, let me just be straightforward that I was very skeptical about the professionalism, the organization, and all of those types of things. I was a big skeptic, and I'll be honest, over the last year, seeing the board and their performance and making the proactive changes that they've been making, coming from where they were and the skeptic that I was, there are still areas, obviously, they're attacking those as well. Every meeting is very, very good because they're constantly bouncing off of each other. How do we make this budget tighter? What do we need to do to make sure that, one of the challenges for them is that building which the city used to own. So if the city had still owned it, some of their budgetary constraints would be lifted because, as we know, the Journey Museum gets CIP funds, the Dolphin Arts Center, when there are problems, the city takes care of it or the taxpayers take care of it. Unfortunately, in their case, they own the building now and the city does not, but there are issues still that are pressing that budget that the Humane Society has, where they do not have access to those types of funds. Now, maybe vision funds, those are things maybe hopefully in the future we can help the Humane Society because they have major structural issues that are going to need to addressed. And I think we're sooner or later going to have to tackle that as a council, whether I'm here or not. The next council will need to deal with it because of the service that the Humane Society provides for the city. It's that important. To what Alderman Drew and Alderwoman Drew brought up, I think that's the elephant in the room for a lot of the council is the termination holding time because our memorandum of understanding is 3 days. However, I think what we need to think about as a council is This group is unbelievably successful at their fundraising. They're constantly thinking of new inventive ways of just picking up pockets of money. It's amazing. They have a wonderful fundraiser. I can't think of her name. Jackie, can you say her name?
Diane Carey.
Diane Carey. Very, very good. She should be working for the city somewhere, but she's outstanding.
Can't take her.
No, you can't have her.
But addressing that elephant in the room is that when we start pressing on the hold times or the termination time, we have to understand that there are some effects that could hurt their fundraising capabilities, because a lot of the people who give are very sensitive about that particular issue. I'm not saying that that is the reason we need to back off on it. I'm just saying it's something we need to take into account. When you start terminating animals sooner, that can hurt your fundraising ability, because when these people find that out, it can hurt their ability to do such things. So we need to be careful about that when we think of that. From that standpoint, I'm hoping that I'm going to talk to the board, and maybe we can have them come back for a budget hearing to give a more succinct, abbreviated version, really the nuts and bolts of the situation that they have, because what you didn't hear is some of that infrastructure issues, and it pulls on their budget. So the fact of the matter is, it's not our responsibility because it's not our building, but the reality is that money, when you're talking about infrastructure, and we're getting ready to approve an HVAC for the fire department, and we need to do that, but the fact of the matter is, they don't have access to those kinds of funds. And so we need to understand that impact on their budget is going to impact their service for the city. And I think the police are have been above the board and have said there's no way that the city could afford to do it for the same price as the Humane Society. So I think we need to have that conversation with police and make sure that what they're delivering and what they're asking for, that those things are congruent, because I think, honestly, there is some room. I don't know how much room, but from being the liaison, I'm telling you, I'm a stickler on things. I would voice them at the board if I saw things I was like, well, and that has been brought up, the termination, and so that may be an area that there may need to be some give and take, but we have to be careful about it. So I'm hoping at the budget hearings this will come up again, and we'll deal with it then. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The chair would like to recognize the representative from the police department. If you could state your rank and name for us, since you're not a frequent visitor, but it is a pleasure to see you visiting us today.
Thank you. Don Hedrick. I'm the support services captain for the police department. And was just going to comment quickly that I can attest for the changes and adjustments that the Humane Society has done in regards to how we've done business with them. I guess, just to put it simply, there was a time not so long ago that we would call and ask for help or ask for assistance, and there was no answer on the other end of that call, or the answer was deal with it yourself. And that has changed. It's changed to the effect of now they're calling us, asking us what more they can do to help us out. And so just wanted to comment on that quickly, and to let the group know that is happening, and we do appreciate it. And if they do step away from their practices currently, somebody else is going to have to pick up that slack, and you'll be pulling police officers off calls for service to handle animal calls. And we'll just have to seek that balance if what direction we want to go. But I can attest they have made big changes, and our folks certainly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, I would like to direct one question to the finance officer. Pauline, for the 2016 budget, I'm working with fuzzy memory here for the last 2 days, but did the 2016 budget, did the police chief recommend a 3% increase to the Humane Society's budget at this time, but they're seeking more to put them back at the 2013 level? I figure we might as well just get that on record before we go into the... Well, Alderman Nordstrom and Alderman Laurenti believe that my memory is correct, that the chief of police has already recommended a 3% increase, but it's over the 2015 to the 2016 budget.
That is correct. It was from 250, 486 to 258,000.
Thank you. Just wanted that on the record since we still are engaged in budget hearings. Chair would like to recognize Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One other consideration, and I'm not sure who this question should go to, is have we got a partnership with the county on this? Because I believe you folks do go out into, say, for example, Rapid Valley and other areas, fringe areas of Rapid City. Am I not correct?
Only if the county requests us to.
Have you got any support from the county at all?
Yeah, we get $50,000 a year from them.
Thank you. And are you in negotiations with them as well?
No.
Thank you.
And is that an ongoing, or is that a year-to-year 50,000
Year-to-year.
budget item?
Year to year.
So you do approach the county commissioners during their budget hearings and try to maintain that request?
If we need to, yes.
Right, thank you. Good question. Seeing no further discussion, I do have a motion to acknowledge and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is the property tax abatement request by Laureen Windenberg. I'll entertain a motion from any committee member here. I've got a motion by Laurenti to deny.
Second.
Second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the denial for item number 8?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Just a comment, Mrs. Windenberg, I want to call you Wandenberg, Windenberg, this committee is recommending the denial of your request, but it's not the final decision. The final decision will go before City Council on Monday night. If you'd like to reappear, and go ahead and you'll have the full council, or you'll have more of us up at that time. Thank you. So the motion has been denied on item number 8. Item number 9 is the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6050 to amend provisions in the International Residential Code to address compressible, shifting, and expansive soils by amending Chapter 15.13 of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion by Alderman Laurenti to approve, second by Drew. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10 is the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6032 to promote historic preservation by repealing Chapter 2.68 of the Rapid City Municipal Code and adopting provisions in Chapter 17.04 and 17.54 of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Move to approve. Second.
I've got a motion by Drew to approve, second by Laurenti. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I do have Sarah Hensel and from the Planning Department give us a little bit of a background. You don't have to go the whole length of explanation of what you gave me, but if you can give the rest of the council just a little background of what we're planning on doing.
Sure. Item number 10 is an ordinance pertaining to the city's historic preservation program and project review processes. The ordinance removes the previous section in Chapter 2 and relocates it into Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. In addition to defining some terms, there are 3 major components of the ordinance, and I can elaborate on any of those 3 that you'd like me to. First, membership and appointment. Second, the review processes. And third, a provision regarding the prevention of demolition by neglect. Any particular questions that you had, just a general overview of those?
That's fine, Sarah. Thank you. And one of the reasons that I want to introduce this particular ordinance and its changes to it, it is not really significant as far as the proposed changes to the ordinance itself. It's just realigning it into a new chapter. And I think just with that brief comments on it, it kind of gives us a good start on the changes that is going to take place with the HPC. Thank you. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. I currently do have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? This reading of this ordinance, I know it's been discussed, and there's been a lot of meetings with staff and the public and the Historic Preservation Committee itself, and it's been ongoing for quite some time. It will go through 2 readings at Legal and Finance and 2 readings at City Council. This committee seems satisfied at this point. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11 is the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6064 to amend provisions concerning consolidation plats and lot line adjustment plats by amending section 16.08.100 of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion by Laurenti to approve.
Second.
I've got a second by Drew. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, if I can go to the City Attorney's Office for a little bit background on this, and primarily the rationale that brought this up was a lot line adjustment with Big Sky. Am I understanding the history on that correct? That's what got this whole thing started?
Well, Brett can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably 6 weeks ago, there were 4 specific lot line adjustment plats that came in, which were flagged by staff as involving unplatted balances. At that time, we brought the issue forward to the council, and you adopted a resolution establishing a moratorium on use of this particular platting procedure with unplatted balances. That moratorium is in place until the ordinance is amended. This in front of you is the ordinance making that change to prevent use of the kind of abbreviated consolidation plat or lot line adjustment plat process for unplatted balances.
Thank you. I don't think I have any particular concerns with this, but I would just want to make sure that if we do have some lot line adjustments in the future, for example, a neighbor wants to put up a shed and they have considerable distance between buildings or outbuildings, and the specific example of what I'm reciting is that if there is a lot line adjustment negotiated between the two neighbors, this new ordinance will still allow that to take place. Am I correct?
It will, as long as they are already platted lots. If those lots have been already platted and approved by the city, then, which is the bulk of what we see, those would still be allowed to continue. The only thing that this would change is if one or both of those parcels were unplatted balances that, because of their nature, were not transferable unless they were platted. It wouldn't allow that. They'd have to go through a more formal platting procedure. But in the majority of the cases, that procedure could still be used.
I think that's the key phrase. It's unplatted is what the big difference is. So just so that the public knows and understands the difference between the two. And for me, that's a big, big difference. So thank you, Carla.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. That's item number 11. Item number 12 is the second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6065 to add bed and breakfast facilities as conditional uses in the Park Forest zoning district by amending section 17.08.030 of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Nordstrom to approve, second by Laurenti. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13 was added to the agenda. Item number 13 is the declaration of an emergency and authorization for contracted repairs for the HVAC system at Fire Station number 1. The chair would like to recognize Fire Chief Multiburn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just came to our attention the last couple of days as the HVAC unit for Fire Station 1, which houses the downtown resources as well as our administrative offices, failed. And we've got a company in there looking at it right now. And their initial assessment is about a $30,000 fix. And it's there's a computer that runs a system that talks to the rooftop units, and that the board that communicates between the computer and the rooftop units has basically failed. And so that board has to be built outside of Rapid City and then sent here, and that would hopefully repair the system at least for a couple of years. And the indications from them is that this is probably the first portion of that system that is beginning to fail. And so at this time, we're asking for the emergency declaration and the authorization to spend funds to get the system up and running. With temperatures coming and the rally, this is critical for us.
Thank you, Chief. Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the Finance Officer, I can, please. Pauline, I don't know if you've discussed this yet, but it appears that Council Contingency or CIP contingency? Is there one better than the other? Can you just give us a recommendation? I'd like to attach a funding source and send it to the council that way. That's my opinion at least, but
I want to look up what the balance is in CIP contingency. Hang on a second.
While Pauline's looking that up, also in visiting with the chief, if the motion maker, whoever makes the motion, if it is to approve, could put the stipulation on there that the cost is estimated at $30,000, not to exceed $35,000 from whatever funding source is indicated, that would be appreciated.
Okay, and we do have $250,000 still remaining in the CIP contingency. So really, it could be either or. However, if we do it through CIP contingency, it really should go through the CIP committee and not this committee. So that way, I would recommend for it to be council contingency at this point.
do we have a motion?
We do not have a motion yet.
I'll make a motion to approve this expenditure from the council contingency fund.
Not to exceed 35.
Not to exceed 35,000, sorry.
I've got a motion by Laurenti to approve item number 13, not to exceed $35,000, to be funded by the council contingency line item for the 2015 budget. And I have a second by Alderman Nordstrom. Never mind, Alderman Nordstrom removed that. Do I have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by Laurenti to adjourn, second by Drew. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.